The cost action FA1204, vegetable grafting to improve yield and fruit quality under biotic and abiotic stress conditions, started in 2012 with the aim to create a multidisciplinary network of scientists, agronomists, breeders and nurseries to understand the biological basis of rootstock-mediated improvement of vegetable crops and their compatibility by merging already existing scientific knowledge and to translate into practice the advanced scientific understanding on vegetable grafting for promoting the development of new rootstocks and the integration of this technique in vegetable production systems. The cost action includes participants from 26 countries, belong to European countries, Middle East countries, Albania, China and United States. The cost action objectives are achieved with several instruments. First of all, the activities of 4 working groups. The working groups 1 is dealing with genetic resources and rootstock breeding. The working group 2 on rootstock-scion interactions and graft compatibility. The working group 3 works on rootstock-mediated resistance to biotic and abiotic stresses, while the 4th working group on rootstock-mediated improvement of fruit quality. Short-term scientific mission is another important instrument to promote scientific collaboration among research institutions, to involve more the young researchers in the cost action, and to increase our knowledge on vegetable grafting. The cost action organizes training schools on vegetable grafting to widen their knowledge of action activities, to provide intensive training on working group subjects, and to familiarize participants with vegetable grafting production and new research approaches being developed in the action. Findings of the working group's activities are disseminated through the website, publication, meeting and annual conferences. 2 important outputs of the cost action are the database and the final book on vegetable grafting. The database includes the knowledge on the rootstock and scions available worldwide and their compatibility and information on the influence of rootstocks and biotic and abiotic stress resistance, yield and fruit quality of cucurbits and solanaceous crops. The final book on vegetable grafting is organized in different chapters, reporting information on the importance of organization of vegetable grafting industry and the results of the working group activities. Another important result of the cost action is the development of new research projects among cost action participants and the establishment of collaboration between public research institutions and private companies like seed companies, nurseries and grower associations.
Vegetable grafting and use of rootstocks in melon and tomato and other vegetable crops is very popular and very widespread these days because growers find great benefits to vigour in their crops and also to disease resistance, to get disease resistance without the use of chemicals. So this has led to a huge market, increased market. So we get hundreds of millions of grafted transplants which are now produced and sold to growers. And this has created a lot of interest for seed companies. Seed companies like to sell seed into this industry, to an expanding industry, and want to improve their rootstock varieties and deliver more diverse benefits through rootstocks. So the aim of Working Group 1 is to bring together all of the rootstock research that underpins breeding of rootstocks and to try and help integrate and allow collaboration between academic researchers and breeding companies. So breeding is based on stacking together lots of different traits and genes, and this is quite a difficult job, a challenging job to bring lots of traits together. So what grafting can offer is to split that difficult task into 2 different things. So breeding for the scion, where you breed for fruit quality and other traits related to the top of the plant, and then breeding for the rootstock. You can focus particularly on rootstock traits. So it divides the problem into 2 easier problems. So in modern breeding, molecular markers are used to stack up genes and traits, and the real challenge is to find molecular markers associated with some of the more difficult traits. So for example, vigour is poorly understood and we don't have molecular markers, so there's a real challenge, and the scientific community and the breeders need to work together to address this kind of challenge. So within Working Group 1, we've tried to bring people together by having meetings, by having scientific exchanges, and by having training schools. And by this kind of collaboration, we think there are lots of opportunities to bring together depth of scientific expertise in specific areas, for example in salinity tolerance, together with technology platforms like next-gen sequencing for DNA sequencing or high-throughput genotyping platforms. These kind of platforms are present in big institutes or in big breeding companies. So by integrating expertise in these kind of platforms, I'm very optimistic that in the future we can have rootstocks which deliver more for the farmers and consumers.
My name is Jan-Henk Venema and I'm working group leader of group number 2 in cost action FA1204. And our group is particularly interested in the interaction between the rootstocks and the sign. So what we actually aim to receive more knowledge how roots communicate actually with the sign, and what kind of signals they produce to produce more, to grow better, and to be more resistant against all kind of airborne and soil-borne diseases. Another part of our group is doing more research into what happens exactly at the junction between the sign and the rootstock. So they are experts in graft compatibility. So in totally we have now an international European group of about 50 scientists, and of them 20 are very much dedicated to our work group. They are from 14 different European countries. We have had different meetings already. This is the 5th one, I believe. And during these meetings, we hear a lot about new results all these scientists receive during their research activities. One of the aims is that we get in contact with the grafting industry, and particularly the breeders of the rootstocks. And we sent out a questionnaire to most of the grafting of the breeders of rootstocks. And we had a nice meeting during the Murcia meeting, and where we had interaction with the grafting industry. And from that we received a lot of information. What are the problems they heard in the field? On which levels should these rootstocks should be improved? As a group, we disseminate our knowledge via diverse joint papers, which we send to international journals. We gave input to a database which we made together with the other working groups. We made a special website in which we put in all our knowledge about mainly rootstock and sign interaction, and about grafting compatibility. We submitted 2 chapters to a book which will be published at the end of this cost action. And people of our working group joined a grant proposal which they sent to the Horizon 2020.
My name is Dietmar Schwarz. I am the team leader of Working Group 3 that is entitled Rootstock Mediated Resistance to Abiotic and Biotic Stresses. Worldwide, farmers face low yield, often because of abiotic and biotic stresses. And the yield gap is caused by different reasons, such as drought, salinity, low or high temperature, low or high pH conditions in the soil, but also abiotic conditions such as nematodes or soil pathogenic fungi. To overcome these gaps, we follow 2 main goals in our working group. Firstly, we develop a scientific network. In this network, we collect and improve knowledge, scientific knowledge, that is related to the rootstocks we are using. And with the expertise of our members in the working group, we are able to investigate also mechanisms behind the rootstock characteristics. With this knowledge, we want to create a solid database for the breeders. Secondly, we disseminate information. We disseminate this information to a wide group of people, particular breeding companies, farmers, extension specialists, but also scientists and horticultural students. To do this, we feed a large database. We are also working on a textbook where we summarize the current knowledge on the topic of rootstock and grafting. Each year we have an annual conference and exchange the knowledge on our latest findings. This year, in 2015, as an example, we organized the annual meeting in Berlin. The topic of this meeting was the rhizosphere and the rootstocks. As a working group, we are also involved in short-term scientific missions. As another example, for instance, in my lab, different scientists from European countries came with different topics. This year we investigated a very interesting questions. How can we enhance the sugar content in tomato fruits with the selection of a suitable rootstock?
I am Cherubino Leonardi. I am chair of the working group number 4 of this cost project, a working group dealing with the quality of produce. We heard that the grafting is used to face with the soil-borne diseases and stressing conditions. However, the quality is affected by grafting. And in this working group, we want to carry activities related to this, to understand what are the mechanisms. And it is something somehow difficult because there are different aspects which affect the response of the plant and at the same time the quality of produce. For this reason, in the last years, many scientists start to work on quality. And the scientists, the many researchers involved in this working group are developing some research, some proposals, some activity which is aimed at collecting data, aimed at publishing papers, aiming at having a more comprehensive understanding of the relation between grafting and produce quality. Some of the achievements of this working group concern the short-term scientific mission, which somehow dealt with the produce quality. But at the same time, there are more than 20 papers which have been published in the 2 years and a half in the last period, in the last years. And we have also a database which was developed by scientists participating to this working group. And also we have been involved in a proposal of a project for developing research on quality, on understanding interaction between scion, rootstock, and produce quality. And finally, we just finished the chapter on produce quality, which will be included in the manual on vegetable grafting, will be published within this cost action.
I'm the short-term scientific mission coordinator in the cost action on vegetable grafting. Now we are in the 3rd year of the project. We have already had 19 short-term scientific missions that were managed by me and the committee that has been formed for this reason. What I can say from my experience in this time is that through this short-term scientific mission, it was possible to have a good collaboration between different national research groups who could exchange scientists. And in some cases, in many cases I would say, the research conducted within the framework of this short-term scientific mission is about to be published in journals. In other cases, of course, it is not at this level, but still it provided the basis for further collaboration between different scientific groups working on grafting. The short-term scientific missions will contribute strongly to the final outcome of the project.
Well, my name is Francisco Pérez Alfocea. I am a scientist working for the Sebas CSIC in Murcia, Spain, and I am actually the vice chair of this course action on vegetable grafting. The meaning of this course action to put together different actors working in vegetable grafting at different levels. So far, most of the progress has been done on an empirical basis. Now we need to put together the plant breeder from the seed companies, the scientists working at different levels, at the agronomy, in plant physiology, genetics, and farmer, in order to develop new rootstock with improved traits, in order not only to improve the tolerance of the crop to soil-borne pathogens, but also to improve the resistance to other abiotic stresses like salinity, like heavy metal in the soil, like drought. And additionally, we are also finding new use for rootstock, as for example, the increasing the nutritional quality of the fruit. And finally, it's also very important to increase the sustainability of agriculture thanks to the rootstock by increasing the efficiency of the use of the different resources. I mean soil, I mean water, I mean energy. And that is the major impact that is expected to be sorted out from this cost action. Another important impact is related to the economy, because we can increase, for example, by using grafting, the income of the farmers in marginal areas, because thanks to the use of rootstock, the farmer can produce in low productivity lands. It's also important to mention that this kind of activity also produce new jobs for the seed company, because they need specialists in producing rootstock, and also for the nurseries. The nurseries need to improve the capacity to produce grafted plants, and this is a job that is very good for the women. So it's another social impact of the grafting. And of course, there are another important factor or impact of the grafting at the environmental level, because as I mentioned before, we can reduce the amount of pesticide, of the fertilizer, or water, or even of energy in the production of our horticultural crops, thus increasing the sustainability of the agriculture, and thus also contributing to produce food in a more secure way and in a more sustainable way.